In today's episode of HR Visionaries, we talk to Mauro from A2A. We talk about his long history in the HR space and also how to reskill people, what it means for the human element to be tech-driven. Stay tuned. Welcome to HR Visionaries, the show where we discover the truth behind contemporary HR. I'm your host, Benjamin. Join me as I unfold today's talent ecosystem with HR innovators from around the globe. Welcome to the latest episode of HR Visionaries. I'm very much looking forward to my guest today, Mauro. It's great to have you.
Great to be here. Thank you very much for the invitation.
Can you tell us a bit about yourself? Who are you?
Who am I? So I'm Italian. I studied economy, and since the very early days of my studies, I wanted to work in HR, although I didn't quite know what that means. But one of the things that I liked at university was this organization studies that I did. During university, I started working for an American company, and I've been there for 10 years. And then moved on and worked in different countries. So I worked 1 year in France, 8 years in Switzerland in 2 different locations, a couple of years in the States, 1 year in Brazil, and finally in 2016 I came back to Italy, where I've been since then. And personally, I'm married since 34 years. I have 2 daughters, but they're not kids any longer, so they are 24 and 20 and 21. So, and they're off to other part of the world as well. So they're studying elsewhere, not in Italy.
It's very interesting. You said, well, you liked HR already in university. So most of the people here on HR Visionaries always tell me the story of, well, through some random events, they entered into HR. However, for you, it was kind of like the place to be.
It was the place to be. I did economy, so and with focusing on managing companies, and one of the basic studies that you do is organization theories, right? And I kind of liked it. I kind of liked the idea. I mean, I didn't quite know what that meant, to be honest, but I like the concept of being in charge of the people side of things and processes and systems. So that's what attracted me, and eventually I think attracted me the fact that I also did quite well in that course. So I guess that was a combination of 2 things.
Well, you worked abroad quite a long time. HR always looks a bit different in every jurisdiction, no?
Well, I've been lucky enough not to work so much on the I would call the legal side of the union side of HR. I mean, of course, I work in companies and the side of managing contract and managing legal disputes was always there, but never in companies in which this was the core topic. So the core topic was around change management, was around hiring people, was around motivating people, engaging them. So on that end, there is more commonalities than not on this side. So it's and I also I was lucky enough to work in abroad in truly global company. So in which the reality of being working in Italy or in Germany or in Switzerland or in the US wasn't so different from one place to another. So I think the company was more important than the location in a way.
What do you like most about HR these days?
I like most the fact that you can, and this is not lip service. I mean it. I've been working in HR since 1999, so it's quite a long time. I like the fact that if you do really a good job, you can really influence and shape for the better organization. So I did many years ago, in fact, some work on myself, and went a little bit deeper on what is important for me, and I came out with a kind of my essence, my core purpose is, and my core purpose is around influencing people and shaping companies to create an environment in which people can flourish. So I do see myself as although I'm terrible at gardening, so it's more of a gardener that take care of creating the good ground and the right place where people can apply and can become themselves and provide a good environment for people and companies to flourish.
Well, in particular, the issue around influencing organizations, I find that very important indeed, given, well, it is a completely different kind of self-identification of HR. So either I influence organizations, make entire organizations more productive, or I, well, just work on admin tasks and make sure payroll is done, right? So these are two very different ways how to look at HR.
They are two very different. I would say that there is when I see influencing, for me, why is influencing important? I mean, I was offered many times in my life to take more of a line leadership role, to become more of a kind of a general manager or whatever. And even today, I do HR, but I do other things. So I am in charge of procurement. I am in charge of real estate. I'm in charge of the full back office, shared services. I do see myself more as a servant leader, in the sense of, I'm here to make sure that the company shine, that the top team, the CEO of the company shine. So, and although I'm very much in the forefront a lot of time, so to me it's more of a helping others to be successful rather than being in the center spot. So it's that's why I'm talking more about influencing, because I just really believe that it's not only by having a great HR person that acts and does things that you can do great companies, but it's more coordinating and creating an environment through, again, as I said, influencing other leaders.
How has that kind of approach changed over the last years? So I think there are still many organizations where HR is seen more as an administrative role, not really a role that influences the organization.
Well, it's funny, right? So let me tell you a bit some anecdotes, some more recent and some goes back a few years ago. So 2 days ago, literally 2 days ago, I was in a meeting with other entrepreneur. It was more of an entrepreneur type of meeting, in which they were complaining about the fact that you cannot find people, that people are not qualified, that there is not workforce, and blah blah blah. And so we were discussing, why is this, right? And somebody said, but there is a lot of talent pool. There is a lot of women in this country that are not employed, so we are way below the European average on that. There is a lot of people coming from different culture, migrants that are there, and we can include them. And the reaction, especially on women, was, yeah, but if we want to have women, I think we need to change the way we are organized. So because women want part-time, women have different needs, blah blah blah. And that's where I've lost it, basically. I was saying, well, if you're not able to change your the way you are organized, right? You at the end of the day, you will never be able to be successful, and you will never be able to provide your company the workers that they need. So goes back to your question, saying, I do see HR as somebody that is able to let people understand, let your bosses or manager or entrepreneur, whatever, understand that walking on the same path that they did and they were successful maybe 10, 20, 30 years ago is no longer in reality what they need. Another big topic for me is all the diversity, equity, and inclusion policy that we discuss these days, right? So, and a lot of companies are going back and say, oh, this is no longer interesting or needed. And I'm thinking, two things I'm thinking. One is, so when you implemented these things some years ago, you weren't convinced, really. So it was more like, again, lip services. And two, I do believe that these are still something we need to work on and need to maintain, a straight direction. maybe to do better, maybe to do things that we didn't do well, because there are many things that we didn't do well. But going backward, I don't think is going to help anybody. So I do see HR as the almost like the conscience of the company in front of the manager to say, you know, this is really important. So it's definitely not an administrative task in my mind. Is more of a leadership role, in fact.
Well, I would love to talk more about this indeed, given the role of HR in particular in light of, well, reskilling of the entire workforce. Well, just keeping in mind, well, with the AI revolution, many things will change, and therefore reskilling of the organization might be one of the key tasks going forward. And HR can play a very significant role in that.
Well, it is a great responsibility we have, right? And it's a great opportunity. What bothers me or worries me, in fact, not doesn't bother me, it worries me, in fact, of the reskilling, upskilling, all this skilling something is around how do we truly motivate people to take a leading role for themselves in this, right? So one of the things that I am personally struggling in my company, and my company, just to give you a sense, is we are 14,000 people. Roughly half of them are blue collar, and half of them are white collar. We have been for many years a company owned by municipalities. So the culture here is around performance, but it's not a culture in which people feel like that if you don't do things, you get laid off or anything. So it's a more of a there is more accommodating in a way. So we are doing well. We are growing a lot, but still the culture is almost like a family mother type of culture. So my sense is I don't feel that there is people feeling the pressure of getting up to the latest technology, refreshing the skills, or being on top of what they need to do in terms of upskilling themselves. So I feel that we have the tools, we have the ideas, we have the technology and the processes. What we are kind of working on is how do we motivate people to do that? And that's a combination of our responsibility as HR and manager. So I do see everything we do as a triangle, right? So in one end you have HR, in one end you have the employees, in the third end you have basically in the third axis of the triangle you have the manager, and you need to work through them, because otherwise nothing is going to happen.
Well, how do you make sure that this triangle is honored? So in particular, so a manager may be inclined to ignore HR, whether it makes sense or not. I leave open for the moment, but that it may be something that some managers try to do.
So the problem here is not around ignoring HR. Actually, in fact, we are quite fortunate in A2A. We do have respect. We have gained the respect over the many years, not since I've been here, but even before, obviously. The problem is that at times I believe that the manager have a short-term focus, and they need to do things. We need to guarantee the service for the day, and anything that comes into that is meant or perceived to be a distraction to them. So I feel that the effort is a continuous effort on educating them on what is the long term and what is the long term benefit for them and for their employee to work on some direction. So that's a really key. So it's not about being ignored, but explaining, re-explaining, reconfirming what is the need. I mean, a number of things that we do not see the cycle through the day, the month, the year, but you see the cycle in 3, 5, 6, 10 years. So you need to let people understand that what is the long-term vision. So having a clear strategy, and we do have a clear strategy on business, having a clear strategy on people, and we do have a clear strategy on people, is definitely helping us to make sure that they understand. The other thing is, of course, education, and a lot of convincing, again, influencing, as I said at the beginning.
How do you picture HR in 5 years' time?
So if you were asking me what you would picture HR 20 years ago, I would say I wish, or I think that HR at some point should work on their self-extinction, right? So I think that we should aim to have a company in which HR is no longer existing, because if you are truly, if you're being truly responsible and capable of creating a culture in which manager take care of the employees, I think that HR in a number of occasions is playing a substitute role of things that the manager has to do, right? So if you're asking me again, 20 years ago, the beginning of this century, do you see a company with HR, a successful company with HR in the future? I would say probably not. And some companies went more or less far in that direction, right? I think, some of the tech company, I think Google, went to the extreme of pushing a lot of things toward manager, and rightly so, I think. Now, I do think that today, if there is more and more complexity, and I don't think that the manager will be able, even if the more enlightened manager will be able to do that truly. So I see HR as the guardian of the values of the company in a way. As I said, the one setting the moral compass around the organization. But also the one that have, the ability to see forward what is coming, right? So it's, I do see a lot of managers busy, as I said, on the day-to-day and not able to look a little bit on the horizon of what's coming. And I almost see us as being able to watch on the horizon, being aware of what are the major changes that are coming and getting the people ready for that. I do believe that there is a lot of things that we can streamline. I mean, I really am really optimistic around the AI. I mean, at least for my organization, I think it's going to be a tremendous change. I mean, there's going to be people probably that are not going to be able to do the work. The work itself will not be there eventually. But on the other hand, I think that there's going to be a lot of people that can free up energy and do more interesting stuff, and to move away from trivial, bureaucratic activities. So I don't know if I answered your question, Ben. It's I do see there is a role for HR, definitely. If we are able to elevate our game, if we stay, as you said before, on payroll, administrative, bureaucratic tasks, we will be washed away by Gen AI or whatever come next.
Okay, I have a few follow-up questions. So, so you just mentioned that AI can ease the burden on HR. What kind of tasks do you have in mind? What do you think can be done by AI to free up capacity at HR professionals?
So we have a lot of activities which are in the payroll field, in the managing travel expenses, managing onboarding of employees, that can be freed up. But what I'm really thinking would be the big advantage would be in two fields. One is training and education. I think LMMs will definitely be able to provide more ability for a vast number of people to be trained in a very quick and effective way. So I do see less and less work on creating coursework and training, and more taking advantage of that. And then the HR people, the learning people, will become truly learning consultant and being able to help people to apply what they have learned and control that this is happening. So maybe working more with the people and less in the background. And that's one to me. The second one is everything related to staffing. Recruitment and selection of people will become much more streamlined, so much less cumbersome. All the organization around setting up meetings, checking references, blah blah blah, will be much easier. And when it comes to all the administrative part, which is compensation management, bonus calculation, and things like that. Again, that's one thing I believe we will be able to do in a much easier way. So if I think of these three things will be important. There is a fourth field which is technically I'm not sure where it sits in either organization. It doesn't sit with HR with me, but as I told you, I'm in charge of procurement as well. So we do have an issue in Italy around controlling that our supplier and the company that supply our suppliers are compliant with all the regulation. And this is extremely complicated at the moment. Extremely complicated that, somebody down the road is applying the right labor contract, is paying the right people, the right money, and so on. And today it's extremely complicated to do this check. I feel that with Gen AI and this type of algorithm will be much easier for us to do it. So to guarantee compliance, reputation, also on the boundary, on what is outside the boundary of the company, but still can impact your reputation.
The issue working more with people, I think most of the HR people would agree that this is desirable. However, I was wondering, so we all agree that this is the way to go. However, there are many people are still concerned about the development around AI, whether it will take their job. I would definitely argue, well, it won't take jobs. One needs to be agile, of course, to and be mindful of changes. But how do you deal with these concerns?
Look, there is one simple fact that people seems to forget. Europe is since many years, and Italy is the worst on that, on the edge of a demographic crisis, right? So we have much less people than jobs, right? And unfortunately, the narratives, at least on our Italian level, is changing very slowly. So still today, there is more news press on a company closing down and 200 people losing their jobs than the thousands of jobs which do not have people to fit in, right? So I deal with that in this way. As you said, you need to be agile, you need to be flexible, you need to put under discussion some of your choices, right? Because you might have a job based on one location today, and the next job might be elsewhere. So there is some accommodation. On the other end, remote working is becoming more and more prevalent. So we have a lot of people working 300, 400, 500 kilometers away from our head offices. As I said, there is much less people than jobs available. So in fact, if there is one thing I'm concerned, and what I tell to people, is not about people not having jobs, is around jobs not having people. That's what keeps me awake at night, and especially in our country where we do see a lot of a young generation going away to find jobs and education elsewhere. That's a real concern for the country, I think.
Well, it's I couldn't agree more. I think all advance in technology in the past has always shown, okay, well, there are, well, there's never an issue that technology replaces people in the medium term, but it's still, I think, when it comes to AI, probably the speed of the development that's concerns people.
Yeah, no, it's true. On the other hand, one thing we are doing is at the moment we are in fact training the managers. So we have about 1,400 managers in the company. So we are making them aware of what AI means, what you can do with it, and it's not technical, right? It's not like learning how to use ChatGPT or Copilot or whatever other thing. It's more around on a more conceptual, philosophical level, because I feel that they need to be experiencing that, they need to play with that, and to understand from themselves what they can do, and then they can talk to people, they can learn to people. But as I said, I mean, there is it was funny because yes, I do this session with my team. So I have about 200 people in HR. So I on a specific topic, I meet 10, 12 people every week for lunch or for coffee. And yesterday one of the topic of AI came up. And there was this guy that was probably, I mean, I would say 64, 65. So definitely at the end of his working cycle. And he was telling me how excited he was to learn Copilot. So we have deployed Copilot inside A2A. And it was funny, right? So to learn, to see our guy that was saying, probably is going to be in retirement age in 1 or 2 years, was still very engaged into that and telling people, even young people in the room, around his successes and how he was also optimistic for the future of the new generation of workers on that.
I think it's incredibly interesting to see, right? So that it's more a philosophical issue rather than a technical issue now that, well, previously when you looked at software, for example, it was like a lot of training when it comes to how to operate the software. However, with AI, it's a lot of, well, just conversation, right? So you just treat it like like a colleague or like a coworker.
Yeah, the challenge with AI at the moment for me is we have a lot of people using it, and there is always this feeling that it is not telling you the right thing, right? And you really need to be careful around not taking the first answer and really learning how to prompt, how to do the prompting and the question basically, because the first answer is not always the right one. So I think that yes, there is this incredible development on some front is much slower than you expected. So it took me like last week I was looking for some EBITDA data for my company, and I knew that this data was in a presentation. So I was telling, you need to look in this presentation and tell me the last 5 years of our growth. And it took me about, I would say, 25 to 30 questions to really get the right answer. And, almost like instructing and say, go and look at this data, go and look at that, and look at this. And so it is growing. And hopefully next time I ask, it's not going to take me 30 questions, but just one. But there's still a lot of learning. We need to teach this machine how to work.
Indeed, Mauro, I have one last question for you, which is kind of a tradition here at HR Visionaries. What are your favorite interview questions?
So I have two. One is around the biggest success or failure of somebody, and what they have learned from this. And this interview question tells me, first of all, if people are reflecting on what didn't go well in that job, and what they've learned. So there are a lot of people that say, well, I think that there's never been anything unsuccessful. So which tells me, even if you've been the most, the best person ever, at least one thing went wrong in your career or in your life or in your work. And the second question is around, and this is true to managers. I do this question to manager, which is what type of people I tend to interview these days, is around if I were asking your people about you, what they will tell me about yourself as a leader. And I ask the positive and the negative. And again, I like this question because it tells me whether these people do this, ask their people or never, or don't care, and how much specific. And the best answer to this question for me is somebody that can tell me and can give me specific example of why they can tell me, either because they do this normally as part of their development performance cycle, 360, whatever. The answer, so what is plus and minuses in their leadership styles, and also what they have done to correct or to improve further So there is a variety of level of positive or not so positive answer to this question that you can. So it's almost not so important on the second question if they tell me, I can be a more, visionary leader, just to stay on the topic of this. It's not so important to me what they answer. It's important for me the process through which they determine that that's the case. If their people, if their team is aware of this and what they're doing, if they want to work on that.
Amazing. Mauro, sorry. Amazing. Mauro, thank you so much for a great conversation. I really liked it. Thank you so much indeed.
Thank you. It's been great to be here. Thanks a lot.
And thanks to you all for listening in, and see you next time.